My thanks to Bring Me to Life Radio, and welcome to the Cinema Scribe. When all is lost, the will to start over can be put to the test. For some, it may be too much, but for others, those who have the fortitude to recover and begin anew, the challenge may be difficult, but certainly not insurmountable. So it has been for many of the residents who experienced utter devastation firsthand, a story chronicled in the riveting and moving new documentary, Rebuilding Paradise. On the morning of November 8, 2018, life in the small Northern California town of Paradise changed forever. During a red flag fire season warning, the unthinkable happened. A spark from a Pacific gas and electric transmission line set the surrounding woodland on fire. That initially small blaze, combined with an ample supply of timber that had dried out from years of drought and strong upper winds, quickly spread the fire. As the flames raced toward the historic community, residents had virtually no time to flee for their lives, let alone to gather possessions, leaving their residences behind to be incinerated. And, despite efforts to evacuate, the catastrophe still claimed the lives of 85 people, some of whom were overcome by fire in their vehicles in a desperate attempt to escape. When the flames were finally extinguished, Paradise had been, for all practical purposes, destroyed. The community's 26,000 residents soon found themselves displaced, and with nearly all of the town's structures obliterated, the fire-weary survivors had nowhere to go. Some fled permanently, while others were fortunate enough to find accommodations with relatives in neighboring towns. But for the rest, this marked the beginning of a displacement to temporary facilities that would go on for months, or longer. Rebuilding Paradise chronicles the saga of the townsfolk through this harrowing ordeal. Beginning with the tragedy itself, the film graphically depicts the horror of the fire with terrifying footage shot from within the inferno. It then shows the aftermath, both on the ground and from above, of a blaze that unrelentingly ravaged the landscape. But the bulk of the documentary examines how Paradise residents have managed in the time since the disaster, their attempts at coping psychologically, their efforts to begin the rebuilding process, their campaign to seek monetary damages from the utility company responsible for the firestorm, aided by consumer advocate Aaron Brockovich, and their quest to establish new lives for themselves. Director Ron Howard, best known for narrative features like Cocoon, The Da Vinci Code, and A Beautiful Mind, tells the story of Paradise through the lens of a number of everyday citizens. There's police officer Matt Gates, who played a pivotal role in helping to evacuate Paradise residents on the day of the fire. School Superintendent Michelle John and her husband Phil worked tirelessly to help get the town's school children into makeshift classrooms and to orchestrate ceremonies for the high school's graduating seniors. Steve Woody Culleton, the 74-year-old self-described town drunk who eventually recovered and went on to become mayor, helped lead the charge for homeowners seeking to rebuild their residences, plowing through the seemingly endless red tape that only compounded an already difficult situation. School psychologist Carly Ingersoll took on the role of crisis counselor to assist students in coping with their circumstances, a responsibility made more difficult by her own trauma, having nearly perished in the fire herself. In addition to those who played such crucial roles during and after the ordeal, the film profiles those seeking to shape what's to come. Graduating high school seniors Zach Boston and Brendan Burke, representatives of what is hoped to be the future of Paradise, introspectively reflect on what they lost and what they hope to regain as their community attempts to rebuild. Pyrogeographer Zeke Lunder, who helps manage the surrounding forests, particularly where carefully coordinated controlled burns are concerned, speaks to the importance of astute stewardship of the woodlands that make the area such a desirable place to live, and how to keep it safe from future catastrophes. And then there are the families, represented here by Justin and Kayla Cox, and Crystal Young and Marcus Nelson, who have been displaced and are looking to make fresh starts, despite the many hardships they face with living space, employment, and even marital discord, traumas brought on by a disaster they never foresaw. The film also reveals problems that most viewers probably never thought about. For example, there is the severe environmental impact that has resulted from the release of enormous amounts of toxic chemicals dispersed by the fire. These substances, such as benzene, have become embedded in the ash that coats the landscape, poisoning the soil and even sinking down into the groundwater, making it unsafe for drinking, showering, and cleaning, a problem even affecting the few who were fortunate enough not to have lost their homes in the fire. On top of that, asbestos released from older structures that burned now makes certain parcels of land, such as the site of one of the town's destroyed schools, too dangerous to enter without hazmat suits. Obviously, the cleanup effort here involves more than just the removal of charred debris. Complicating matters even further are the bureaucratic nightmares that have stifled the rebuilding process. Issues involving FEMA, for example, have hindered the approval of permits for new home building, problems brought about by questions involving regulations, and, in turn, the funding to comply with them. Indeed, how can residents begin to move ahead if they can't even get out of the starting blocks? As if there weren't enough stress in residents' lives already. However, despite these many challenges, there's always the human spirit to counteract them, and residents certainly have plenty of that in reserve, as evidenced in the film. They know what it was like to have found paradise, and they certainly don't want to see it lost forever. Rebuilding paradise may take a Herculean effort, but mankind has done this before, and there's no reason why it can't be done again here, making it possible for paradise to be restored once more. Rebuilding a burned-out community is indeed a daunting task. With roughly 95% of paradise destroyed, there's much to be replaced to restore the town to what it once was. Overcoming the grief associated with this loss alone is a feat calling for extraordinary effort. But as debilitating as this might seem, this tragedy also provides an opportunity for rebirth, a chance to not only recreate the paradise that was lost, but to make one that's even better than before. One that learns from the mistakes of the past to usher in a bright future. To some, that might seem unlikely given what the community is up against, but for others, it's a venture to be tackled with the same spirit as those who built it in the first place. It's an endeavor that they believe in, and that's crucial to their success, for those beliefs are essential in making the outcome happen. To rebuild the town in the wake of the fire and to eliminate some of the hazards that contributed to the devastation, those responsible for devising solutions must seek to overcome limitations that may have previously held them back, or that they couldn't see past in coming up with workable answers to these challenges. That's where beliefs once again play a role. By stretching their vision and looking for previously untried, or even previously unconceived of, ideas, they have an opportunity to overcome the pitfalls of the past and to establish new paths for the future. The residents of Paradise set an inspiring example for those facing similar dilemmas and opportunities. In a larger sense, the film also raises the question of global climate change and how it may have contributed to this calamity. While the picture doesn't belabor this point, it nevertheless points out how we, as citizens of the Earth, must all work together in addressing this issue. Using footage from a variety of natural disasters around the world, the film shows how incidents like the Paradise Fire are just one example of the devastation that's being wrought by these tragedies, and in greater frequency and intensity. If we truly all profess to care about the paradise that is this planet, we had better start getting our acts and our beliefs together on this front before it's too late. While the devastation that came out of this tragedy was indeed staggering, there were the proverbial silver linings too. For example, when the fire encroached on the home of Michelle and Phil John, they received an invitation to come stay with Michelle's cousin Ronnie and her husband Shin, with whom they had been embroiled in a 20-year family feud. An invitation that came unsolicited from Ronnie and Shin. Even though the Johns' home was damaged but left standing, Michelle and Phil accepted the invitation and moved in during repairs, ending the feud, healing the old wounds, and prompting the two couples to become best friends. Who says something good can't come out of something bad? In the end, it's truly inspiring to see what community residents have undertaken to rebuild their town. It's a reflection of the pioneer spirit that went into its initial establishment. But perhaps even more importantly, it's illustrative of the human spirit that seeks to overcome its adversities, no matter how difficult, to recover our losses and to create anew. And, to put an exclamation point on this effort, the name Paradise reinforces what the residents are attempting to build, a name that says it all when it comes to characterizing what they're genuinely trying to manifest for themselves and their progeny. Director Ron Howard, in a rare documentary effort, does an excellent job in examining the impact of this deadly wildfire, the widespread fallout that has come in its wake, and the heroic campaign to begin again. This heart-wrenching yet hopeful offering details the pain and suffering, along with the little victories experienced by virtually everyone in the community, as well as their determination to rise from the ashes, literally and figuratively. It's not often that a documentary will move viewers quite as profoundly as this one does, evoking both tears and joy, and making us appreciate what we have and what we can lose in a heartbeat. Rebuilding Paradise is easily one of Howard's best productions in quite a long time, and a film well worth seeing. The film is available for first-run online streaming and in limited theatrical screenings. The power to overcome can be quite formidable, greater than many of us know, especially when we put our minds to it. Our resilience under such duress is a testament to the power behind our ability to create, even under the most dire circumstances. There's a paradise that exists within each of us, and it's possible to bring it forth into being if we believe in the notion. The residents of a small California town are proving that, showing the way for the rest of us, and, despite the challenges involved, succeeding. I'm Brent Marchant, the Cinema Scribe. Thanks for listening.
A lifelong movie fan and longtime student of metaphysics, Cinema Scribe Brent Marchant is the award-winning author of Get the Picture, Conscious Creation Goes to the Movies, Consciously Created Cinema, The Movie Lover's Guide to the Law of Attraction, and Third Reel Conscious Creation Goes Back to the Movies, all of which provide reader-friendly looks at how the practice of conscious creation, also known as the Law of Attraction, is illustrated through film. Brett maintains an ongoing blog about metaphysical cinema and other self-empowerment topics through his website, www.brentmarchant.com. He's also the movie correspondent for the Good Radio Network and New Consciousness Review Magazine and Radio, with additional writing contributions to Smart Women's Empowerment, The Happy Guide, Library Journal, BeliefNet, Vivid Life, New Age News, and Master Heart Magazine. Brett holds a BA in Magazine Journalism and History from Syracuse University. Again, check him out at www.brentmarchant.com.